Are you exhausted from feeling like nothing you do is ever good enough for your partner? Do you wish that he would just appreciate you and maybe even compliment you instead of constantly finding fault like it was buried treasure? In this episode, I'll share two powerful ways to handle a critical partner so you can finally feel emotionally safe at home and stop feeling like you have to defend yourself all the time. I'm Laura Doyle, New York Times bestselling author, and I was the perfect wife until I actually got married. This is the Empowered Wife podcast. If your husband makes you feel bad about yourself by criticizing what you say, how you cook, what you wear, or how much you get done, it can be really hard on your self-esteem. Maybe you have asked him to stop nitpicking, to appreciate what you've done, or even to say something nice once in a while instead of constantly tearing you down. You might wonder if it's just a fatal flaw in his personality that he can't stop saying things that hurt your feelings. Maybe he just seems mean. But no matter how hard and hopeless things seem right now, you can teach him how to treat you with a lot more tenderness and love. You can bring out his best. That's what this episode is all about. Here are two essential ways to inspire him to stop being so critical and truly see your gifts and your value. If you're not familiar with the 6 intimacy skills yet, these two ideas are going to sound counterintuitive, like they did to me when I first heard about them. And you might think, I'm not doing that. And I get that. It takes courage to even experiment with these ideas. I wasn't inclined to do it at first either. But then I got desperate because my marriage was completely falling apart. So that was painful and it was motivating. And this is what worked for me. And it's worked for so many other women too. So I just wish that every woman who wants a playful, passionate relationship knew about these hacks I'm about to show you. So here goes. Number one, you can restore respect by expecting the best. Expect the best. Have you ever noticed that when a kid says something that's critical, it's not very upsetting? Oh, sure, the truth hurts sometimes. Like when my 2-year-old nephew was sitting on my lap and he announced that my breath smelled bad, like, ooh, that wasn't the best news that I had bad breath. But my sister and I busted up laughing. I knew that kid was not trying to be mean or critical, so I wasn't upset. I wasn't defensive. I've noticed that for criticism to really upset me, I have to assign a negative intention to the person criticizing me. I've decided they're attacking me and that they mean harm. They're trying to injure me. I'm expecting the worst from them, right? Let's just get upset. I did that for years with my dad, and practically everything he said upset me, injured me. I barely had a relationship with him for a long time because it seemed so masochistic to be around him. But those days are long gone. My dad and I are lovey-dovey now. Once I learned the intimacy skills and practiced them with him, I came to see that he loves me to the ends of the earth and he just wants the world for me. So when he says something critical, it might sting a little, but it doesn't offend me like it used to. I remember I was feeling self-conscious one time, this was a while ago, about gaining weight. And he questioned why I would wear a top that had horizontal stripes that only made me look wider. So, ugh, like, okay, maybe this wasn't my best clothing option that I put on today. Fine. Being overweight was a sore spot for me, and he was bringing attention to that pain point. But I knew he wasn't doing it to be mean or insulting. So I still felt safe. I know he loves me. He just wants me to be happy. He wants to be my hero, just like my husband does. I see the good, hardworking dad in him more than anything else, even though that's not who he seemed to be for a lot of years for me. So either he changed or else I changed, and he responds to me so much better now, Either way, I like our relationship so much better now. So, one question to ask yourself is, what are you expecting from your partner? Are you expecting them to be critical and attack you? Or are you expecting a mere mortal man who loves you and wants you to be happy? Which one sounds right to you? If it's the critical attacker expectation, can you find evidence that he actually does love you and he wants you to be happy instead? The second way to deal with a critical partner can really help you get to the point where you see the best in your person, in your partner. Here it is. Listen for the heart message. Now, Coach Sonia hated hearing her husband say, "The problem with you is," but she had no idea what to do about it. So she just kept feeling insulted, martyred, and teary until she learned to listen for the heart message. Now, listening for the heart message means that when you hear a comment that sounds like a criticism, you ask yourself what he could have really meant, with the assumption that he does love you and he never wants to hurt you, right? For example, Coach Sonia wrote about asking her husband a question from the next room and he couldn't hear her. So when she went closer and repeated her question, he went into a diatribe about how she needed to stop talking when no one could hear her and stop expecting them to be able to hear what she'd said. So she started to feel hurt and offended. But she decided to listen for his heart message and hear his comment as proof that what she said was important to him. So she said, "I'm glad you want to know what I'm saying." Right? Coach Sonia wrote a terrific blog where she gives lots of examples of how she converted every criticism she heard from her husband into a heart message, a loving heart message, by expecting the best from him, really, instead of the worst. She said her husband looked at her a little funny when she gave him a hopeful compliment in response to his remarks that could have seemed harsh, right? But the result is that she rarely hears harsh words anymore. And Sonia's husband recently surprised her by buying her a new luxury car with a huge bow on top of it and taking her on a trip for their anniversary, which really speaks volumes about what's in his heart now. So, will you start expecting the best and gathering evidence that your critical partner actually wants the best for you? Or are you going to listen for a heart message knowing that he loves you? Either way, you can exercise your tremendous power to teach your critical partner how to treat you with tenderness. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. On next week's podcast, my guest describes how she's living with a narcissistic husband who changed for the better. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that when I was a kid, my mom would take me to the mall and I'd run ahead into a store and tell them I was lost to get a lollipop and some attention. Drove mom nuts, but finally I stopped when I turned 27. Good times.